Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. And someone was telling, we thought that we would have a standing room only, and someone said to me, well, maybe they're not here because they thought it was a scam. By the way, I'm Marge Colapietro, and I worked to help with the presenters to have this workshop for us today. And we hope you're going to pay good attention and you'll get a lot of great information. So I want to let you know that this is sponsored by the City of Millbrae Senior Advisory Committee. Our police chief, Paul Kunkel, sent a special envoy to be here today. And he is Sergeant Dan Guiney, who is standing in the back. And okay. And we're very, very happy to have him here to represent the law enforcement agency at this important workshop.
First of all, thank you for setting this up. This is a very important topic. We, from time to time, do have victims that call us and advise us of different scams that they've been victim to, or from time to time call us about an incident that might have happened that might have been an attempt at a scam. So I want to encourage you all, after you hear the presentation today, if you have any questions or have any scams you feel you might have been a victim to, please do not hesitate to come by the police department or give us a call so that we could look into it for you. But again, thank you very much for having them here. Jeff from the U.S. Postal Inspector Service and Joel from the DA's office, I'm sure, are going to give you everything that you need to know, and there's some great flyers in the back. So Matthew as well. Yes, thank you.
To our audience, we thank you for recognizing the importance of protecting yourself from becoming victims of mail and financial fraud. We're fortunate to have two experienced presenters with us who will provide simple and practical steps to help us avoid becoming victims. I want to introduce you to Jeff Fitch, who is a postal inspector for the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, the San Francisco Division, and also to Joel McComb. Joel, you can come to the front. Who is a deputy district attorney with the San Mateo County District Attorney's Office, and he's in the Consumer and Environmental Protection Unit. And along with Jeff, he brought a shadow, whose name is Matthew, who's in the back of the room. So thanks to all of you for being here, and I just noticed that Wayne Lee, who's the Millbrae mayor, is here, and we thank you for being here, and we're going to begin. And Jeff?
Yes.
All right. So
again, my name is Jeff Fitch. I'm a postal inspector with the law enforcement arm of the post office. I want to thank Marge for our invite and putting all this together. The hardest thing for these kind of presentations is getting the venue, so I appreciate the mayor, the city manager, and the city of Millbrae giving this opportunity. That this week is actually National Consumer Protection Week. This is a national event made up of many federal agencies, sponsored by the Federal Trade Commission, the Department of Justice. We have attorney general's offices, district attorney's offices, the Postal Inspection Service. Many of the local law enforcement agencies participate. And the messaging is how not to be a victim of fraud. That postal inspectors are federal agents. We're the law enforcement arm for the post office. And postal inspectors investigate mail fraud because a criminal activity takes place through the mail. The mail fraud statute was enacted in 1872. The technology's changed, the scams haven't. And the real key to these scams is just don't respond. Hang up, delete, and shred. And it's all based on the imagination of the bad guys. The types of scams that they will do. We've even gotten, I'm going to cover a couple of different scams, but there's even one that we call reloading, or actually I think the bad guys call it reloading. That's where if you've been victimized, they've had you send them $500. Somebody else will call you saying, we understand you've been the victim of fraud. Send us $300 and we'll help you get that $500 back. So it's just, it's the imagination of the bad guys. That's what we're dealing with. That they will mail things that look very professional. They will send emails that actually are legitimate companies, except for one or two symbols or digits are different on the email address. So we've got people who will actually do some research, and it turns out it is a legitimate company. And we followed up afterwards, and we called that actual company, and the company says, that was not us, and we're not happy that these people are using our name. So when you just have to be vigilant. That's what our messaging is. Don't make yourself paranoid. It's all about vigilance and just questioning. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And then, as a sergeant was saying, it's the reporting that makes a difference. Make a report to the police department. Make a report to the district attorney's office. If it involves the mail, make a report to postal inspectors. Here are some fraud facts. There are no legal foreign lotteries in the United States. So if you receive information, congratulations, you've won the Canadian or the Australian lottery, it's a scam. Your bank will never email you or call you asking for your account number. They've already got it. Do not wire money to people you don't know. There are no legitimate jobs that involve reshipping items and financial instruments. We've got people, and there's been a number of scams. In fact, CBS News this week did a story on a work-at-home scheme. And the individual was looking for making a few extra dollars, being able to operate out of his house. And what the bad guys were doing was asking him to purchase, and then ship electronics overseas. And they said, the reason we're going to you, because he lived in either Montana or Idaho, and they have no sales tax. So they're saying, we want to work with you in Montana because there's no sales tax. And they had him make purchases. They sent him a check, pardon me, that turned out to be counterfeit. So the bad guys, at the end of the day, all they're trying to do is make money. That we had a fraud case years ago that our mail fraud team worked on, that the bad guy sent out mailings all across the country. And all he was trying to get people to do was send him like $200 or $300. But he sent out thousands of these notices for an investment opportunity. He even counterfeited the postage. So at the end of the day, these guys, all they want to do is make money, and it doesn't matter who they're going after. So when we finally caught up with him and arrested him, it took some time. But we even charged him with the counterfeit postage. So check your bank statements monthly. Look for charges that you did not make. And if you see something, report it. Retain receipts, statements, packing slips, review them for accuracy. And most importantly, how many here have a home shredder? Shred all financial documents. Anything with a name, date of birth, social security number, run that through the shredder. Shred and shred again. Instead of just putting stuff out in the trash, because we've got individuals we refer to as dumpster divers that will go looking for that information, and they'll start doing things like identity theft. Again, foreign lotteries, they're illegal in the United States. So if you receive anything, telephone calls, mailings about winning the Canadian or Australian lottery or a lottery from Europe. Now, something else that we've seen recently in these last few years is some of these scam artists will actually, because they're either out of state or out of the country, they've been recruiting seniors to recruit other seniors to participate in some of these scams. And we had an individual up in Sacramento that our fraud team sat down with him and said, you've got to be very careful here because we're pretty sure that the bad guys are overseas. You're the person here that's committing the crime. You're the one that's arrestable. And it turned out, after even sitting down with him, he kept doing it. The inspectors arrested him. Now, something else that they will do for some of these different fraud scams, whether it's the lottery or investment scams or different types of solicitations, they'll say, don't worry about what we need to collect from you are the taxes or the fees, but we'll send you a check to cover that. They'll send a $1,000 check and say, send us back $400. Well, later on, that turns out that was a counterfeit check. That will have a real routing number at the bottom of it. It will have a name of a legitimate company or the fake company, but it'll be Joe's investment business in Sacramento, California. The check actually comes back to Joe's tire shop in El Paso, Texas. So the bad guys every little thing that they're doing is to make that money and to get people to fall for something. So if somebody says, I'm sending you $1,500, just send me back $400, ask a question, because federal law requires the banks to cash that check right away, so the bank doesn't by law use that as a float. But it'll take 2 weeks to figure out if that check is counterfeit. And we've had people that have come to our office that they've actually cashed thousands of dollars worth of checks. So again, work at home schemes, you just have to be very, very careful. The ones where that's one like the reshipping, they'll sometimes say we want you to repackage things and ship them overseas, and it'll turn out to be like high-end merchandise, electronics, and it's all either purchased with a stolen credit card or it's been purchased by somebody else who's a part of the scam. And they're asking you to repackage it and then ship it out. And you'll be stuck with the cost for the shipping materials. And also, too, you may be a part of the criminal scam, again, making yourself possibly arrestable. So now something else that they'll do is say, set up bank accounts. I'm an international businessman. We want you to, I'm going to be sending you checks and money orders. And as I'm traveling around the world, send me something. And I'll call you and say, send me $500, send me $2,000. And that's the same thing where then you've opened up a bank account, you've run counterfeit checks or counterfeit money orders through those bank accounts, and that's more trouble. The checks and the money orders all turn out to be counterfeit. A new wrinkle also with identity theft is the work at home schemes. The scam artist will say, fill out this job application online, give us your date of birth and your social security number. And things are getting more and more difficult, because even now for our agency, when we're recruiting people to be postal inspectors and postal police officers, they have to, the first whole section of the application process is online. So everybody's going that direction, and what the bad guys are doing is camouflaging themselves out there online, and just it's all about doing that research, taking a second look and making sure that you're not falling for a scam. Some tips here for helping prevent possible identity theft is repairing any damaged or getting a locking mailbox. Don't leave your mail in your mailbox overnight or on the weekends. Again, if you don't have one, get a shredder and shred again. And also, too, to share with you, it's not just individuals that get targeted. Businesses get targeted for mail fraud schemes and different fraud scams. We've got false billings investigations we do. And there was a local business here in the Bay Area that was taken because they received false bills in the mail telling them that they owed money for light bulbs. They sent $70,000. What small or medium-sized business can take that kind of hit? And when our office caught up with the guy, what they could prove was $2.5 million is what he scammed different businesses. And in the thinking of the inspectors that worked that case, he probably got a lot more money than $2.5 million. But that just shows, and these businesses had account payable, they had CPAs, they had auditors, and the bad guys were able to make their stuff look official. The dollar amounts were low enough, and it just made its way into the system, and they were able to get some money. Again, If you think it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if you've received something in the mail that's part of a fraud scam, throw it away or recycle it. You can send it to us. You can contact the local post office, or you can send it directly to us. We send all of these solicitations to our Chicago Fraud Center, that we've got an office in Chicago where all of the fraud mailings that we receive go into a database so we can track, so we can figure out where the mailings are going out to. And also, too, we work to try to determine where the bad guys are, if they're actually in the United States. And we actually have inspectors that are stationed overseas, that many of these scams are, one of them is from the Jamaican lottery scam, and we've now got inspectors stationed in Jamaica. We've got inspectors that are stationed in Europe working with other law enforcement agencies in other countries. So the work is out there. And like I said, the real key to this is just to be vigilant, keep an eye out, and if something just doesn't look right or you get that bad feeling, go with that. You can contact your local police department to drop those things off, because even if it's making an informational report, we share information with the local law enforcement agencies and with the district attorney's offices. And again, don't send money or wire money to people you don't know, and don't give out that personal information. I've got handouts in the back that are available. You can actually go to our website. We've got DVDs that talk about different fraud scams. You can just watch them online. Or if you decide you want something, we can always, being a law enforcement arm of the post office, we can mail it to you. So with that, I think that's everything I've got. I'll turn things over to Joel here, but we'll be available for questions if anybody has any concerns. Just feel free to ask us. We're not going anywhere. All right.
So again, my name is Joel McComb. I am a Deputy District Attorney here in San Mateo County, and I'm assigned to the Consumer Protection Unit. What we do in the Consumer Protection Unit is bring enforcement actions against businesses that are violating the law in some fashion. That happens in a number of different ways. We receive complaints and we encourage people to report violations of the law by businesses directly to our office and to our unit. I brought a few consumer complaint forms with me, but the most common way that people reach out to us is through our website, and that is da.smcgov.org. So it's the county website, but DA in the front instead of www. You can also Google the San Mateo County District Attorney, and that will take you directly to our website as well. There's a consumer complaint form online that you can download and fill out. Provide us with as much detail as possible, and we will take a look at the complaint. So a number of possibilities if you do file a complaint about a business. We will review every complaint carefully, and we are also happy to speak with you directly about your complaint. We, in some cases, the law doesn't allow us to bring cases on behalf of individuals. It has to be an enforcement action for violations of the law. So that's the limits of our jurisdiction. However, we do have active litigation against businesses, and in most cases, the information that the business is violating the law in some fashion came to us either directly or indirectly through a consumer complaint. Really appreciate the presentation by the postal inspectors, Inspector Fitch. We work with them on some cases. We refer cases to them when we receive complaints that are appropriate to send on to them. They do excellent work. For example, we had the inspector mentioned the fraud against businesses where it's a fraudulent billing. We had a situation where the business that was targeted was not here in San Mateo County. The scam was being routed through San Mateo County. It was interesting because the scammers were not actually in San Mateo County. Thanks to the inspectors' service, we were able to determine that the scammers were actually in Montreal, Canada. But they were routing these fraudulent bills, and these were related to fake Yellow Page ads. They will essentially just send a bill to the business to say, you owe us, it's usually $300-400 for a year's worth of an ad in the Yellow Pages. And they know that some businesses, again, maybe because they're too busy, they just throw this in with the rest of the bills and pay them. And in this case, there was a mail drop here in San Mateo County that was being used by the scammers to route their fake bills to the victims. Again, we found out about this through a complaint from a business that realized what was happening, and we referred it to the inspector service, who were able to determine where this was coming from. So we can also be reached by telephone. Sorry, thank you. We can also be reached by telephone. Our number is 650-363. I'm sorry, 650-363-4636 is our main line. Just ask for Consumer Protection, the Consumer Protection Unit. Again, that's 650-363-4636. Again, I am happy. I have business cards with me, and I have some complaint forms with me. I'm happy to speak with you afterwards and provide that to you in writing, so if you don't have a chance to write it down. We have a fairly broad range of enforcement actions that we bring. The postal inspectors have a specific focus on the mail fraud. We have a little bit broader of a focus. We have a smaller jurisdiction, but a broader range of enforcement actions that we can bring. In short, if it's a business practice and it's a violation of the law in California, our unit will take a look at that and potentially bring an enforcement action. It often happens through the civil courts, actually. We can bring a suit against the business in civil court, and in other cases, it's brought as a criminal prosecution. So we have jurisdiction to do both. So we have, again, a direct way to reach us. We encourage communication from the public and with regards to any violations of the law that they see a business engaged in. I would reiterate what Inspector Fitch said, that we really want, as best as possible, to avoid people becoming victims in the first place, because there are limits to what we can do in terms of enforcement, and we want that prevention to happen. So I would repeat, just as he said, the best thing that you can do is to ignore, throw out the documents, shred them, hang up the phone. Just an example of, another example along with some of the examples he listed. The thing that I have seen in a few cases is scammers who contact people and demand payment for various services that they purported to have performed, and they demand payment through gift cards. Usually it's iTunes cards that they want the victim to go and get and send to the scammer. I am not aware of any legitimate business that gets paid in gift cards. That's just not how a legitimate business operates, and so that's another thing to watch out for. And it's amazing how common that is. I've had a number of a couple different complaints that have come into our office where that was the MO of the scammer. So with that, if you have questions, let me just get the...
So I'm wondering where I report internet fraud or social media fraud, Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I imagine social media fraud is going to be more and more prevalent in the future.
Absolutely, yes. You are welcome to report it to the District Attorney's Office, to the Consumer Fraud Unit. If we are not able to address it directly, we will route it to, we will either route it to an agency, Or depending on the type of fraud, we may ask you to file a report with your local police department. We may also provide you information about agencies that can be reported to, such as the FTC, for example. And maybe, Inspector Fitch, you may have more to add to that.
You can, we've got a website, and it's called Delivering Trust. And there's as you said, the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Everybody has an online way to get those computer solicitations, or if you spot something on Facebook, that those can, or even if you, like Joel was saying, if you would contact our office saying that, there was no mail involved, we would route you to the right agency.
A different question. I live in a condo, and the mailroom is it's a locked condo, but the mailroom is open once you're through the door. And there's been a lot of theft of packages from that delivery center. So we should be reporting that to the Postal Service?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
before you leave, we'll get an address for that.
Yeah.
And actually, Matt and I are on the fraud squad. There's a mail theft team that covers San Mateo County,
Okay.
and those guys will want to know about that.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Next question. Surely some people may have a question about something you've experienced and or a friend of yours experienced.
Marge,
There's a lot of,
let me just, if I can interrupt real quick.
sure.
Right now, we're moving into tax season, and there's going to be all kinds of scams about your taxes. And we work also with the Internal Revenue Services Criminal Investigation Division. They're very active investigating those scams. And what those guys have told me, and also local police, again, these things are the imagination of the bad guys. And they will call saying, you owe the IRS this much money, send us a check at this address. And if you don't send that check, we're going to send the police to arrest you. And what they do is they'll call the local, and I was doing a day in the park with the San Jose Police Department, the city of San Jose, and we were talking about theft and fraud prevention. The police department had their table next to mine, and the police department was saying that they were getting phone calls asking for welfare checks. So the bad guys are on the phone with the victim, and the police are walking up the front steps. The police department was not amused. So all these things, again, are based on the imagination of the bad guys. So, the IRS will never call you asking for a social security number, or, they'll send a letter. There'll be official correspondence. It won't be somebody calling you. But that just shows you how, devious these scammers are. It's all about, again, trying to get their hands on your money.
I have a quick question. I was expecting a check from a family member 2 weeks ago, and they sent it 2 weeks ago Thursday, and as of yesterday, I haven't received it yet, so I told her to stop payment on the check with the bank. Is there any other recourse or other procedure I have to go through?
We can get a mail theft complaint in the system, and we can do some checking on our
Because
end.
it's coming from the East Bay, and I was told recently that a lot of people didn't get their mail because it went through the Oakland post office, so there's something going on in Oakland post office area.
No, it shouldn't matter. It'll go, depending on anything mailed in the East Bay, will go through our big facility on 7th Street, which is right by the freeway.
Okay.
And then it gets sent over to the San Francisco mail processing facility in San Francisco.
Okay.
But it should not take 2 weeks. It should take like 2 or 3 days. But again, let's get your name and phone number,
Oh, okay.
and we'll contact you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I feel I'm pretty savvy and not expecting freebies in the mail and whatever. So if it's too good to be true, I'm not expecting it. And I'm not expecting that I've earned a lot of money when I haven't even applied for it. But the problem that I'm afraid of, you're saying they're getting so good with making things look like real companies and real things. And most of us open our mail and we just see, and it looks legit. How do we really know that this company is a really legitimate company? That's the scary part. It comes in the mail if it's on the phone, I can hang up and I'm saying, oh, it doesn't bother me. But if you're saying like the IRS will send me a letter, that's great. But how do I know it's really from the IRS? Because they can do such good fraud things that I won't know the difference. That's all.
You just have to do a little bit of research, ask the right questions, and many times the bad guys, if you're not, biting at that apple and or
But
falling for the scheme.
if they sent me a letter and they said, this is their phone number, and I call that number because I'm thinking I'm talking to the IRS, then
Then go
how do I know that?
do your own separate investigation. Go online and see what the IRS's real phone numbers are. That they'll be, or they do have customer service offices. They've got them several different places, and you can actually walk into the office. And normally during non-tax season, those offices you can get in and they'll answer the questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I receive some mail all the time with my address, not my name, with different name, and I return it to the post office, say wrong address. They still send it back to me. How can I stop that? I have quite few often doing like that way.
And you're putting on their return to sender, right? When you
No,
when
I
you-
didn't say return to sender. I say just wrong address.
Well, if you just put on their RTS or return to sender.
Oh, okay.
And then
Because the address is right. Because my address, only
Right.
the name is different.
Yeah, if it's coming from a company or a bank or somebody, just put on their return to sender and it'll go back to the sender.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to know what the most common method of approaching seniors is. Kind of assume it's the telephone, but could you kind of tell us what's the most common and ways to approach when that happens? You've been saying it, but it'd be nice to just kind of have an elaboration on that. Thank you.
It's all based on the imagination of the scammer. That sometimes it'll be an investment scheme that there's the returns will be 20 and 30%. So it sounds really good. Or it will be it's only $25. That the bad guys will sometimes say, and it'll be as I was saying, to follow up on your question, it'll be on very impressive letterhead and an envelope that looks very official. So it's based on the scammers.
So is receiving mail the most common method of seniors receiving these scams, or is the phone or other?
I would probably say the phone and the computer now. But again, our day starts and ends with stuff going through the mail. So that's all we focus on. Now that doesn't mean that we start there, because we've actually arrested bad guys who have used United Parcel Service or FedEx to send a scam to a victim, and the victim will send the check back U.S. mail. And the mail fraud statute says uses the mail or causes the mail to be used. There have been a number of people who've been saying, but I didn't use the mail. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, you caused it to be used, you're still getting arrested today. So it just, like I said, I would say I'm betting it's probably by computer or by phone.
So Joel,
I'm sorry, I just wanted to follow up on that real quick. I would just say from our local perspective here, I would agree that it's what we have seen coming in terms of complaints are situations where the telephone was used and email and telephone. Certainly, though, I would second that it is very much driven by the imagination of the scam artist, and almost, if you can think of it, they've thought of it and tried it. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to ask you, Joel, you probably work with people who receive or have experienced scams over the internet. And one thing, how many of you have computers and do emails? Okay. So one of the things that I noticed almost every single day, I'll get in my inbox, I will get emails that will say, your account, this just happened yesterday, your account number at the bank has expired. You need to renew and get your account number in there. And then I don't open it, obviously, because I know it's spam, and I don't do any financial work over the internet. And so I'll hold my cursor over the people who send it. And every single time, it's an individual person who is not associated with, say, Chase Bank or Bank of America. You know, if you hold your cursor there, you can see before you open it if who it's from, and their email address will give you the hint, this is not from your bank, it's legitimate. And do you get those kinds of things that you work on through the DA's office?
So we do hear about those type of scams, absolutely. Unfortunately, those are very common, and one of the reasons I think is because it's so easy to, I guess spoof is the word I would use, a legitimate company's email or website, and a lot of times, as you said, you will see if you look at the address that the contact is coming from that it's not quite the right, you know, it doesn't exactly match the bank or the institution that is supposedly sending the email. And then the other thing, along with what you were saying, along with that if it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. If something is off about what the communication is asking you to do or telling you, if you're in your sense, and you know, trust your gut. If it doesn't sound right for some reason, like, well, I've never heard of a bank account number expiring, right? That's something that if yours, I guess you could call it spidey sense, is going off, that this does not sound quite right. Listen to your gut on that, because it probably is indicative that it is a scam or not legitimate.
Yeah. Oh, all right. We need to use the microphone for television purposes.
I have a little hint also. If it's .org, O-R-G, or .gov, G-O-V, it's more legit. But if it's like .com or any other last three codes, then it's more likely a scam, I think.
Well, I would be careful about that. I think that's a good instinct, especially if you would expect the URL to be a .org or a .gov,
Right.
then it's a .com. That certainly is a red flag.
Right.
I think that's
Correct.
good. But scammers can use
Replicate that too.
and .org, .gov. They can fake the URLs to make them look very legitimate.
Okay,
But
okay.
that is a good point.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Someone else had their hand up? Over here.
When I receive a suspicious,
Microphone, hold it up.
oh, when I receive a louder. When I receive a suspicious email, is it better to go to junk mail and check block or check the box that says phishing?
Well, what you want to be careful of is that you're not opening the mail or clicking on links that are in it if it appears to be spam. Without being more familiar with the particular email program that you're using, I'm not sure I can tell you the answer to that. I don't know if, but the main thing is not to click on links or
Right.
open up the email that appears to be suspicious.
Oh, okay.
Questions or an example of something you want to share that happened to you to be let us know to be cautious about? Dorothy?
Yes, I had a phone call. They said it was from the Bank of America, and on my phone readout, it said Bank of America. And they said, do you have a Bank of America card, Visa card? And I said, if you're calling from Bank of America, you know whether I have a card or not. And I hung up.
Yeah.
And I called Bank of America, and they said, we have had similar calls like that, reporting.
So thank you for that. That's a perfect example of exactly what to do. Yeah, you hang up. You know that you were exactly right. That's the best way to protect yourself is to recognize that they're asking for information that they shouldn't need to ask for, that they should have already, and you hang up.
I know they're thinking because you're a senior, we can say this and you won't notice.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
I do.
Anyone else? Oh, yes.
When you get junk email, some of them will say that you can unsubscribe, and I was told that sometimes it's better just to delete it rather than to click unsubscribe. Do you know?
So it is certainly it's certainly possible that you could get an email that's a spam email where the unsubscribe button could, be a link to that could cause problems for you. Could be a link to some kind of malware or something along those lines. So it is something to be careful of. If you are subscribed to an email that you know is legitimate and coming from a legitimate business, then I think you're fine to click the unsubscribe button. But it's certainly something to be careful of.
But you know that we get so many spam emails that say that, and a lot of them, it's not your company or
Right.
email that you have subscribed to. So
Then you definitely, if you're not sure, don't click on it.
it's better to delete
Don't-
if you
yeah.
just don't know.
If you don't know, clicking on the links within the emails is where the problems come. That's what can result in your computer being infected with spyware or malware of some kind.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anybody else? Good.
I'm not sure what you meant about the cursor, holding the cursor. I mean, if it's my iPad, it's my finger. Oh, I don't have an iPad. If it's the mouse would be the cursor. And if you hold that over. Go ahead.
When you receive an email in your inbox and it shows on the left column who is the sender. So if I don't recognize it, I take my mouse and I put the cursor over their email address, and I could see it's not Bank of America or it's an individual person. And usually what I do, I just put it in my spam box. And then periodically I empty my spam box so it's not taking up a lot of space. So I put it in the spam box so that the computer will detect that it says this is not, thank you for mine says thank you for letting us know this is a scam when I do that. And then if it's, every few days I delete it, clean it up. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, Jeff, or Joel, since you have the microphone, any closing comments that you want or any information that you want?
So again, I'm happy to speak to you afterwards and provide you, with my business card. And like I said, I did bring a few consumer complaint forms with me. But mostly I just want to really thank you for being here, and I want to thank the postal inspectors for being here as well. Your knowledge and your instinct is your best protection, and so I think these kind of meetings are very valuable. We appreciate meeting you. We are very proud to be a part of this county and this community, and we just thank you for being here.
Joel.
I would say if you have any questions, do reach out. Contact the sheriff's office, contact the DA's office, or contact our office. That we'd much rather take the time to work with you for prevention than, if you are doing your research. But don't hesitate if something does happen where you do fall victim to one of these scams. First, stop. Don't continue, because the bad guys will keep coming back till they figure out, that's as far as you'll go. But do reach out to us. We're more than happy to work with you, provide information. Like I said, all the solicitations that you give to us, that goes into our database at our Chicago Fraud Center that inspectors across the nation use, trying to identify where the bad guy's at.
Well, thank you very much. I think we can give a great amount of applause and thanks to our presenters today. And we're so happy that you took the time to come and be with us. And like they said, they will be here if you have individual questions or any follow-up that you would like to do. If you see, for those of you who haven't seen the table in the back, there's a lot of information flyers that you're welcome to take with you. There's a sign-up sheet if you would like to receive the senior newsline letter in the mail, or if you want it to come by email, you could let Adrienne know. And I also I forgot at the beginning, but she came back in the room now. I just want to also thank Charlene O'Connell, because she's in charge of reserving all the rooms that are available for all this, and she shuffles people from here to here and here to here to make things happen. And many of you know Charlene because she used to manage the Senior Advisory Committee. And so she is very, very busy, and I'm just grateful, Charlene, that you haven't left on your vacation yet, that you made all this work, and she has a crew of 1 or 2 people who also assist with the logistics. So thank you very much, Charlene. All righty, thanks. Okay, so with that, we want to say thank you to you again for coming, and there's plenty of coffee in there and little snacks, so please help yourself. And just go back again to mctv.tv to see when it's going to be replayed. So thank you very much. Thank you again, gentlemen.